Mark Gamsjager is one of those musicians who knows exactly what musical path he walks and does it with conviction and joy. It is obvious. Watching him perform, or if you are lucky enough to be on the bandstand with him, his enthusiasm is contagious. Mark got his early inspiration from the Shakespeare of rock and roll, Chuck Berry, and many others that include Elvis Presley, Bill Haley, Chet Atkins, Charles Beard, and others. While Gamsjager played in folk and bluegrass bands in his early years, he realized quickly that besides knowing how to play, one had to entertain in order to hold a crowd. It is that combination of musical expertise, both on guitar and vocals, and entertainment in his stage presence and ability to read an audience that makes him and his band, the Lustre Kings, such a success. Mark has expanded his fan base over the years from the 518 area to Texas, across the United States, Las Vegas, and overseas to Italy and Europe. He keeps American roots music with a heavy rockabilly influence, as well as some country and honky-tonk and even jazz, alive and vibrant. For the Lustre Kings' 25th anniversary, the group won the Ameripolitan Music Award for the Best Rockabilly Group. Gamsjager has played alongside leading lights like NRBQ, John Sebastian, Robert Gordon, Commander Cody, Deke Dickerson, Bill Kirchen, and Eddie Angel. His crack band, the Lustre Kings, has strongholds in Chicago, Austin, Texas, and Brooklyn, New York City, and Las Vegas. And they have rocked festivals like Heritage Folk, Rhythm and Roots, Viva Las Vegas, and Gray Fox. The combo has frequently served as retirement rockabilly firebrand Wanda Jackson's backing unit. Wanda says about Mark, "I have worked with many bands around the world through the years, and none are better than Mark Gamsjager and the Lustre Kings. She proclaims their fine showmanship and musical ability make them the greatest in my book. They rock." If you get the chance, check this wonderful guitarist, vocalist, and entertainer and his band, the Lustre Kings, out. You have a good time hearing music steeped in the Americana songbook. It'll leave you wanting more before the night's over.
Listen here, girls, don't you understand? When the Lord made me, he made a big, big man. Yeah, baby, don't you understand? When the Lord made me, he made a big, big man. Oh, mama, don't you understand? When the Lord made me, he made a big. I said big. I'm gonna take a little walk and trying to get you off my mind. Gonna take a little walk and try give to me when you hold my hand. Tell me I'm your loving man. Kiss me, squeeze me tight. Tell me, babe, you wanna love all night. I said, oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Chills and fever, what you give to me when it's late at night. And when you hold me tight, I tell you that I love you so, and that I'll never, never, ever let you go. I said, oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Chills and fever, what you give to me. Ow! Tell you that I love you so, and that I'll never, 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 never let you go. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Chills and fever, what you give to me. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Oh, chills and fever. Chills and fever, what you give to me. All night long. Chills and fever.
Hello, Mark Gamsjager. I am so happy that you are helping me out today with my Empire Radio Sounds and sharing your time and music with us. So I'm going to jump right into the questions.
All right. How you doing, Marcus?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. And they're kind of long questions, so be patient with me. I got to read them off the page. I'm long-winded.
That's all right.
First off, haven't had the opportunity to play with the Lustre Kings. I would like to say this phrase from your website really does sum up what it is like to work alongside you in the Lustre Kings gig. And I'm going to take this right off of your website. It says, quote, fancy picking and sassy singing wasn't enough. If you wanted to hold a crowd, you had to entertain. And Mark Gamsjager, hair palm tie, and a wink in his eye, is an entertainer through and through. He listens to the audience with a conductor's ear, making every song, every passage, and every note hit home. So my question, and I think there's a very important lesson here from bands from any style of music, okay? If it is possible for you, could you explain to me, A, before you even start the set, how you assess an audience, and then B, what do you consider while you're playing the song to keep the momentum for the next song?
All right. Well, I was going to be kidding around and say you can't believe everything you read on the web. But if it was on the internet and on my website, it must be true.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I've been playing now since the late 70s.
Okay.
So in a couple of different genres of music. And I can usually assess an audience. I've learned as an entertainer to read a room, and to see what people want. And there's certain gigs that the Lustre Kings do that might be a little bit more, say, original music, or strictly to one genre like rockabilly or, rock and roll. And then there's other audiences and other instances of gigs where the people, where I can read them and say, you know, it's not gonna do me any good just to be playing original music. I need to play music that people want to, that recognize, and to win over an audience. So I might mix it in with some songs that people know and can dance to or sing along to, and then I slide in some of my own, and then it kind of works that way,
Yeah.
you know. And then while I'm doing it, I just think over the years of got my doggy here. Over the years of entertaining, I can usually figure out what a next good song would be, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get stuck, but I like the idea, if I have a dance floor going, that not to have any dead air.
Right.
I kind of feel a little stifled by just like working with a set list. As you know, we talked about doing gigs, and you said, well, send me a typical set list. And it's like, I don't have a typical set list. You know, we might play
Right.
40 minutes, we might play 90 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
So depending on the gig itself.
Well, I find that really, in my experience of playing for umpteen decades here, it's a sign of situation awareness. And the best players I've ever played with, band leaders, they are very aware of that. You know,
Yeah, you
any
can
style.
kind of feel it,
Yeah.
you know. And I've worked with other people on stage that have the same vibe going, and it's nice when two people have it, because they just start picking a song and you're saying, yeah, it's right, I didn't think of it.
Makes it a little easier too. Yeah.
You know, instead of, you know, I don't know, what do you want me to do, you know, that type of thing. You know, I've worked with some great singers, and Colleen Pratt, you must know Colleen,
yeah.
right?
Yep,
She's
I do.
a fabulous jazz singer. Now, she's somebody on the bandstand, she'll do a tune and she knows what she wants to do and what the people want to hear, what key it's in,
Nice.
where to go. I mean, instead of just standing there saying, I don't know, what do you want me to do? It's not what
Right.
I want to do. It's, you know, what the audience wants to do.
Yes.
Colleen is incredible with that. She knows how that, it's just, I think if I would have to say, it just comes with experience.
Well, I can't disagree. Okay. To keep a band working is a huge undertaking, really, and I don't need to tell you. Trying to sell live music is a daunting task. Over the years, you have built a successful band that travels and entertains, not only in the US, but in Europe as well. At least you go and pick up a band. Could you give a little bit of history of how that part of the Lustre Kings developed?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because I've had bands where, you know, we're all in it, and, you know, you have 3 or 4 guys together, like the first kind of garage bands that everybody's been in, and each person does a task, and then all of a sudden you get gigs, and then that one guy can't make it, you know, or you get the classic thing to having a band with a bunch of people would be, you'd get your guys together for a photograph. And then you probably remember printed photos that you'd order like 500 at a stack, with your name and phone number, and you're ready to do some booking. And you no sooner get those 500 photos, they come, it would cost a fortune to mail them today. I remember I used to get them in boxes, you know, 9 inches thick of just 8 by 10s. And it would never fail that somebody would leave. Would leave the band. So now you got all these pictures that you can, you know. So to keep a band working, I mean, I look at it as the Lustre Kings have been my business since day one. Certainly there's people that I've worked with that do other work around it, and I have people booking me and helping others, and, you know, but it's kind of like I do most of the work because boils down to a lot of work. And I look at it as a business.
Mhm.
So if I were a plumber or a carpenter or a painter or something like that, I would be booking the work and then getting people. So I have a stable of guys that
Uh-huh.
I work with. And I think that's kind of the best. It's a good scenario. I have an A team. You've played with the A team, you know.
Thank you.
And I just think it's not that I don't want to rotate anybody. I mean, I worked with some guys for over 20 years, you know, and I just think it's just, and when I travel, you know, the idea of picking up a horn player or a second guitar player or two horn players in the Midwest, because I can't travel that far out with guys, it's nothing new. You know, jazz bands and big bands were picking up guys all along, you know. And the thing that works for me is if I have a core, you know, a good rhythm section, and we're all professionals and everybody's kind of ready to go, it really adds a fresh and exciting, you know, experience for everybody, the audience, for me, for, you know. So that's the way I look at it. And I just work every day at my business as if I were an electrician working at a, you know, my business, that type of thing. The European thing came about where I was contacted by a promoter who didn't want the band. He wanted just me, because getting people to Europe is expensive. And I think I was in Germany at the time playing with a guys that I had brought over there, and it was fine. We worked and we were doing a tour, and he contacted me about doing it and if I'd be willing to do it. And he hooked me up with a band from Italy, and since then we've become good friends.
Nice.
Fantastic players. And so I kind of had from that experience, I got the confidence of saying, I will go over to Europe by myself, maybe bring my wife, you know, and we do a festival and we can kind of hang out for a couple of days on each side. I'm going over, my plan is to go over in November to do a tour, and that will be with some guys from here. And it's a lot of planning and a lot of, it's a lot of expense, you know, before you play one note, you know, so it's, hopefully it'll all work out.
Well, I'm sure it will. I think people they see you on the bandstand. I think they don't understand, or maybe they do, but how much of what you're doing doesn't even involve a guitar in your hand. You know? And it's crucial. It's crucial to make it all happen. And when you start talking Europe, now you're talking passports and all kinds of things. And well, it's even more complicated now, but let me get on to my next question. That was very insightful, actually. From my experience with the Lustre Kings, I find it very challenging and fun because I have to switch gears from a song like Peter Gunn to Johnny Cash's song Ring of Fire. Now, both of these songs, as different as they are, to me, they represent sort of like icons of the American music landscape. What sort of standard or criteria do you use when choosing what songs to play for your audiences? Because that's a broad jump between those two.
Yeah, well, I got it. I got that line from Duke Ellington. If it sounds good, it is good. You know, I was brought up on music. So to be, again, depending on my audience, and the gig itself is where I might even play some standards or some, you know, some American jazz, you know, like if I like it, I'll just play it. And
nice.
And I think it will, and it always goes over, you know, if it's good music, it's timeless.
I agree.
You know, so, I mean, even though I like certain jazz, I probably wouldn't do it because I couldn't do it justice, but certain music and like standards that we play at a, you know, they're just great songs.
Yep,
you
and
know?
they're fun to play night after night.
Right. So
you know.
so if I look at, I'm just looking at for my I gotta plug in my laptop here. Oh, maybe I don't. I'm all right for now. So if I look at an audience and I think that this song fits, and you know, you can't go wrong with American icons like Johnny Cash or Chuck Berry or Elvis, and,
Right.
you know, a tune like Peter Gunn, again, is a timeless classic.
Yeah.
You know, everybody could relate to that song, and it really, you know, but I also like Moonlight in Vermont, and I like Misty, and I like, you know, so if we could, if I'm at a situation where it calls for that, I'll pull those songs out too.
Sure.
Harlem Nocturne.
Oh,
you
boy,
know,
I better do my homework. That's one I haven't done in a while.
Yeah, no, but they're great songs.
Oh, they are.
You know what I
especially-
mean? And it gets everybody in a different vibe.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Anyone who's seen the Lustre Kings, likely they're going to see a lot of dancing, and especially in the styles of dance from the 1950s. If you could tell us a little bit about how dance plays into your musical direction.
well, I think it's in the 90s where swing music really took off. And I was playing rock and roll and rockabilly since the 80s.
Okay.
And it kind of morphed into some swing stuff, and just people have been dancing to good music since day one, you know. But when that whole swing craze kind of swept the nation for maybe a second or even third time, I don't remember. People have been dancing, like I said, forever. I just it got very popular where the swing dancers across the country would pop up, and they'd be, you know, you're not in a club, you're not in a bar or anything like that. They're in halls, and people love to dance. And it's just the thing that you know, it's really helped the band as well is to listen to the dancers, see how they groove. You know, things can't be too fast, and it's really got to have a lot of rhythm.
Interesting.
You know? Yeah.
Yep. That's something, you know, those types of nuts and bolts of making music are really important, because
Yeah, I was taught that
tempo's
along.
wrong.
I could tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass music, he sat me down on his tour bus in the mid 70s, and he said he taught me the difference between speed and rhythm. And people would think that just because it's fast, it was good and it was rhythmic. And he said, if you listen and you listen deep, you can hear the difference. You have a fast song, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's rhythmic. And when people are playing, or even dancing to that, if it gets too fast, you lose everything. It loses.
This is very interesting, because this has been one of my pet peeves when I was playing a lot of jazz, is people think if you play fast, you're better at it. And when again, deep listening, it's interesting. If you listen to, I'll use Michael Brecker as an example, a lot of his stuff is not that, the tempos are not that fast. So you set yourself up to sound great, because you sound like you're playing pretty fast. And it's just, it might not relate to dancing, but it does relate to the success you're going to have playing.
Yeah, sure. Rhythmic and space in between what you're doing is going to keep people dancing.
Absolutely.
You're only as good as your drummer too.
Yeah, and boy, you got some good ones, I got to tell you, brother.
Yeah.
As a longtime saxophone geek that I am, doing a gig with the Lustre Kings, one has to do a little bit of research in the early 1950 styles of rock and roll music in particular. Having said that, and that's kind of where I first remember music, there's a fine line between playing a great rock and roll sax solo and then knowing when to stay out of the way and not even play or barely play. When you hire not only sax players, but any instrument, what do you look for in your musicians as players and as teammates, as it were?
Pretty much you summed it up, when to play and when not to play. And also in a genre of the music that we're playing, and good tone and intonation in a horn player, stylistically, what I'm looking for, you know, not necessarily just a tenor sax player, but I really like the way baritone speaks in this music.
It does.
But the same thing with a piano player. It's the, or, you know, anybody that's playing in the band has got to understand a little bit about it, you know, and it's hard to, you can get just a rootsy, really good natural roots player. Or if you find a good musician, just turn them on to that stuff. There's so much available now.
That's generous to do, give them a shot
Yeah.
at it, you know.
Yeah.
I notice some of the drummers that you've had along the way, boy, would you guys lock in, you know?
Yeah.
Some of the little tricks that happen are just really fascinating to me, you know.
And again, that comes with playing a lot of gigs, you know.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
How that would be. I'd like to talk a little bit about the guitar aspect of rockabilly. Needless to say, anyone who's heard you, they understand you've mastered this, and other styles too, I might add. This style of Americana guitar picking, if you will. Who are some of your favorite guitar influences, and how do you go about practicing and learning these great rockabilly and old school country and western styles?
I think I don't know, I have a lot of different, I came from a rock and roll background, listening to 50s rock and roll, like guitarists like Chuck Berry and blues guitarist B.B. King and T-Bone Walker and Freddie King and Eddie Cochran, you know, listening to that style. And then that was in the rock and roll thing. And then when I started listening to bluegrass music, I got involved in that, and different guitar players that were doing, you know, some syncopated stuff and some really good, interesting stuff. So I kind of morphed them together and made my own style with it. But I just, again, I love Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery. I love Jimi Hendrix. I don't really know too much about rock players, but, you know, there was a good Jeff Beck, who I was never really a fan growing up of Jeff Beck. And he put out a record called Crazy Legs. Was basically a tribute to Cliff Gallup, who was Gene Vincent's guitarist. And after listening to Cliff Gallup, and then you hear Jeff Beck, wow, you know, so I got involved in listening to Jeff Beck's other stuff, and he's such a master of playing the instrument. So I just kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and put it together, you know, some new players, and I listened to, and then I practice on that style, but it came natural because it's what I do. You know, I can't really play other. You know, if I were to be hired for like a studio gig and they wanted something other than what I do, I can't do it. You know, you need other.
I like that approach, and I think it's important. I mean, that's the world of a sax player to a large extent. If you're going to be successful, you can't just play Charlie Parker,
right?
And if you just play Junior Walker, you're not going to make it in, say, a cocktail hour. You know, you gotta know.
You have to be versatile.
So I can completely.
You also have to learn that on every corner there's somebody that you can do your craft better than you.
Yeah.
I mean that you should hang up your horn or keep your guitar in the case, but it also listen and learn, you know, from other players. when I get on a stage with, I learned so much from this Italian player, Diego, and just listening to his playing. I've been on stage with guys like Bill Kirchen, or there's a guy in Rochester, Bobby Henry. He's just amazing, and you feed off of one another. And I think it raises your level of playing.
Yeah, you get inspired. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to say this name right, but in your travels and bookings, because I was doing some research, what role do organizations like Ameripolitan
Ameripolitan,
play in keeping Americana styles and rockabilly styles music alive? And why do you think this music has so much appeal still?
Well, the whole Ameripolitan genre came about from Dale Watson, who was a honky tonk and a country singer. And he developed this Ameripolitan for roots rock and roll, country and western, bluegrass, rockabilly, swing. He didn't like where country music was going in the direction that it was taking, whether it be commercial country or new country. And so he developed that.
Yeah.
So if I see, and there's a whole underground or grassroots of music that people across the country or around the world that love that type of music. So with Ameripolitan, that kind of helped us out by I won an award. Unfortunately, we really didn't even get to like shine too much because COVID hit.
Right, and I was going to mention that. That's how I came across this, and I saw you got that award. I started reading about the organization and so
I got
forth.
I got it on my fireplace, but and it was great. It was a really, it's an award that's recognized by your peers of music, and
absolutely.
And it was a big deal, and literally it was the beginning of March, and then 2 weeks later the whole world crashed. And so I still got the award. I got it on my my mantle and my fireplace, and I'm proud of it. And
as you should be.
Yeah,
you earned that. I think it was best rockabilly group, if I remember right. And it's well earned. I got to tell you that. Okay, well, when I've played with or seen the Lustre Kings, I notice the professional way things get done, in particular things like CD, T-shirt sales right by the bandstand. If you were advising, this is kind of a two-part question, a young and upcoming player, what might you suggest to do in regards to both selling swag and, on a different note, booking a band?
Well, I mean, the music, the one thing with streaming services, the days of going out to a store, a record store, and buying a record or buying a CD or a handful of CDs, it's kind of a thing in the past, So primarily the way I sell most of my CDs, I would say, is off the bandstand, and we do sell some stuff online and some stuff through streaming services, and the swag is the tail that walks the dog. It helps us get from town to town, and it's just another way of doing it. But especially now, I mean, $4.29 a gallon of gas, all that stuff helps. It's different from just playing local bands, local dates, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of great musicians that don't leave town, don't have to leave town. But when you're traveling and you have to book a hotel here and there, and that whatever extra dough that you can make on those T-shirt sales, and it also legitimizes or helps promote the band. So that's why I do it. you know, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
The other part of your question was about
Booking. Yeah, because that's the
Well,
tough nut to crack for everybody, no matter how long
yeah,
you've
it's
been in this.
actually gotten a lot easier, you know, with the advent of the internet and with digital press kits and sending music around. I mean, I used to, when I first started in this, you had to find out who was booking a particular club, whether it's in your hometown or on the other side of the country.
Sure.
Then you have to make a connection and you have to get to the person. Then you have to get their address. And then you have to fill out an envelope, stuff all your stuff in the envelope, go to the post office and mail it. And then you have to do a litany of follow calls because it's sitting on their desk and they haven't opened it because they're busy, you know?
Right.
And then they gotta go through it. So now I would think for younger bands that with the power of digital music and different platforms, that it's really easier to book, you know? I mean, I can remember touring and pulling over on the New York State Thruway or I-90 out in Chicago and calling the next venue. You know, I toured just before I started touring, before the advent of like cell phones and stuff like that. You don't want to get to a place and realize that they got another band set up.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that can so easily happen.
Yeah, that happens. So I would say that the other thing is be professional for young bands. You're doing a job. Nobody cares about your band. That's the number one thing. So once you get that, nobody gives a damn about your band and when you leave your town. So if you're going to try to book gigs or try to do some travel with your band, got to be on time. You got to be polite and courtesy and professional.
Yeah, this is golden advice, and I think you just gave a complete college 101 course for free. I could not disagree with any of that, and I realize you got to love it to do this stuff. That's for sure.
Sure,
you got to have a love for it. One of the reasons I wanted to do this interview with you is this rock solid musical style that the Lustre Kings give an audience. You obviously have a deep connection to the music. And again, if you're advising a young player about playing with a musical identity, what might you suggest? I think a lot of bands flip-flop around. They don't really know what they're doing or where they're going.
Well, I think it's only natural, and time tells all that if you play and you play, I used to hear, actually, this is a good, for instance, with straight up rockabilly bands, 25 years ago when I first started going to rockabilly festivals. Okay. And they've been on for, one of the first festivals in the United States was a festival out in Colorado. And then there was a big one. I think that was one of the earliest ones in Colorado, and then in Indiana. And bands from all over the country would come, and people from all over would come, and you kind of see what's going on. And then I got introduced to it's a great rock and roll festival. It's called Viva Las Vegas.
Nice.
And Tom Ingram, who's the promoter, who knows the music inside and out, would handpick the bands.
Wow.
So we got asked a couple times to play, and early in those years, when it was first getting off the ground, I'd go out and listen to a band, and I'd come home and I'd say, man, I have to sound just like that band, or just like this band. And what was weird was a lot of these bands were from Europe, and the
Hmm.
Europeans hung on every word and every niche of that genre, and they nailed it.
Huh.
And it kind of wasn't me, I mean, it just wasn't. So I would have to try to play authentic and then say, no, I'm going to do this or do that, or the instruments would be just this.
Yeah.
And then over the years of playing it, I am an authentic American, and that's where the rock and roll started,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it just had to be me, and I just do what I do. It's what I do, and
Yeah.
I can't sound like a band from Germany who wants to sound like a band from America in the 1950s. It's just not my thing. I can't do it. So I got to sound like the way I sound.
Well, and
So I
I
think
think
for a young band to get, whether it's rockabilly or rock and roll or jazz, to just keep at it. And eventually you find your own sound and you find your own comfort zone.
yeah, and I think you hit something right there, that comfort zone that feels right. I've heard singers in different interviews in particular say, uh, I won't sing a song if it don't feel right, even if it is a popular, I'm just not going to do that.
Right.
Well, Mark, I want to say huge thanks, brother, for helping me out with this. And
Thank you, Marcus.
And this has been a real pleasure to actually have a little bit of time to talk. Usually on the bandstand,
I know.
we're busy.
Yeah, I look forward to the next time we're on stage.
Oh yeah, me too, man. It's
Yep.
just a lot of fun for me. So the last thing I would like to ask you, before I stop the recording part of this, is what do you have any plans coming up right now for yourself or the Lustre Kings that you'd like to share with us?
Well, we have a very busy summer.
Okay.
I have about 75 gigs booked from,
Nice.
say, Memorial Day through Labor Day.
That's a lot of work.
And I have an upcoming, we're playing a bunch of festivals, and next week or 2 weeks now, I am going back out to Las Vegas. We play Viva Las Vegas a couple times a year, every other year, every couple of years. And
Yeah.
I'm going out there, and I was just out there in September. Due to the pandemic, things got shifted around, and then
Sure.
so I'm just looking forward to everybody staying healthy. The
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, the last 2 weekends, we were down. I was in New York and Philadelphia, and it felt really good to
Good.
play. Last weekend, we played at the Rustic Barn in Troy.
Yep.
You had seen us there,
Yep.
and it was great.
Yeah, it's a fun venue.
A really good energy. People were out, so
Yeah.
that we have a couple festivals and a bunch of private stuff. And like I said, in November, I'm going over to Europe, God willing.
Nice. Nice. So people can find out just by going to your website,
Yes.
where
Yep.
you played and all that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And all right. Well, thank you so much for being with Empire Radio Sounds,
All right.
video vlog dedicated to the music of the 518 and beyond. And I'll be
Thanks,
seeing you on the
Marcus.
bandstand.
Okay, man.
All right, brother.
Thank you. Signing off.
All right.
This is Marcus Benoit, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode from Empire Radio Sounds, where we do weekly and monthly features of songs and artists from the 518 area and beyond. Support local musicians and be most excellent to each other.